Hunting out west is a complex, time-consuming, and ever-changing system of draws, regulations, and management techniques that differ across states, species, units, and methods of take. It's confusing to say the least. And getting a tag is a challenge hunters, both new and experienced, face every single year. onX Hunt Research Tools solves these headaches. In this video, we'll walk you through every feature and show you how real hunters are using this product to develop their application strategy. It's time to stop dreading application season and apply with confidence in 2024.
Hi, I'm going to give you a brief overview of how to use this tool. We're going to have more in-depth videos on all the little details of how to utilize it, but this is just a quick tour and a way to get our feet wet. Let's dive in and get a high-level tour of onX Research Tools. I'm going to log in with my Elite account. And when you first log in, you'll get this modal that wants you to pop into your profile and update any residency or points that you might have for various animals and states. We strongly recommend that you do that because it will give you more tailored results to your odds and your interests. So let's open that. It looks like I've already updated my points, but I'm going to add a few more here for deer in Montana. I have 3. You also probably want to update your residency. So going back out here to general, I can edit this and select a state. And then save. And what that will do is it'll choose the right odds and application types for that state. So going back to draw odds here, we get to the main screen of Research Tools. And you see you have 2 options here. You can either start the guide, which is like a guided tour that walks you through all the filters and the options and kind of explains why you might choose one option or another. Or you can just get right to searching, which is what we're going to do. It's worth mentioning that we will have more in-depth videos explaining all of the little intricacies of this product. But just to get rolling, let's choose elk. And then I'm going to pick Montana. And at a minimum, you need to choose a species and a state to get searching. So I'm looking at some results here for Montana, for elk. And so I see some draw odds here, 100% draw odds for antlerless elk in this unit here. You can sort by different options here depending on what your goals are. Harvest rate, hunting pressure, public land, and you can adjust the direction that you sort with these. If you click on one of these results, it'll take you right to the unit in the map. So it kind of helps give you a reference point of where you're hunting for hunts that are not in a state you're familiar with. So these 3 are all the same unit. That's why that's not updating. But if I click on this, it'll take me to another unit, unit 270. And you can interact with the map, zooming in and out, and moving around, just like you would in our web map product. So let's take a look at some of these other options because I'm wanting to be able to shoot a bull. So I'm going to click male here. And that'll update to only include results that allow me to shoot a bull. Now that might include either sex as well because that includes bull elk, but yeah, at a minimum I'll be able to hunt male elk with that filter. Let's take a look at some of these other filters. So in the state dropdown, we have some options here for different hunt types. If you want to look for youth-only hunts, that'll help you with that. And then we have some veteran, military, and you can even filter by rut. Again, we'll go in more detail with all of this stuff later, and then you can have different options for weapons or what time of the year you want to hunt. So we have an option up here for changing the view. Right now it's set to map and list, which gives us this convenient map reference. But if you switch it to table, it'll fit more results on a page. So it's easier to look at lots of options at once. If you're in the middle of a search and you need to update your points, you can open this little menu up here and it has some options here to take you to your profile to update your residency and your points. And then there's an option to take you straight to your points, which is convenient if you want to do some kind of guess and check around, what would my odds be at this level? And then if at any point you feel like you're confused and you need some help, there's this guided tour right here that takes you back to the guided tour. So this is just a brief overview of the product. We're going to have more in-depth videos on how to manipulate all the different features of this product. And make sure you double check the regs, because this is not meant to be a replacement for the regs. This is a kind of a research tool to help you make decisions about your hunting strategy. So double check those.
All right, so I'm going to show you real quickly how to navigate to your profile and set all the necessary information up ahead of time. So this is crucial. It's one of the first steps that you should do when you're in the hunt research tool. You can see my screen here. I'm looking at some different hunts. I'm going to navigate to the top right-hand corner, click on the three little dots and my profile. And then profile is super simple here. You can go ahead and you can edit your information, your name, your email. One of the most important things though to get set up ahead of time is your residency within your profile. If you don't set up your residency, it will automatically default to all non-resident draw odds. So if you're a resident of a Western state, you're going to want to make sure to go ahead and set that up. So as simple as clicking edit, I'm a resident of Montana, go ahead, click save. Any draw results for Montana, it will take that into account. So again, if you do not set up your residency, the draw odds and all the information will default to non-resident. So helpful information to know. And then in the next one, we're going to dive into the points and how to get those set up, why that's important. Okay, so we're going to dive into how to add points to your profile right now, why that's important, and a few different ways to get to your points within it. So we are in the general screen right here. We've got our residency added. We've gone through all of that. Now we're going to dive into the points. So a few different ways you can get to it. Through this general screen on the right-hand side, you can click Add Points. On the left-hand side over here, you can select My Points, or if you're in another screen, if you go to the top right-hand corner, you can always find your points from right there. So super important. If you've got points in states, make sure that you add these right away. It's going to really help when looking at your draw odds and get the most accurate and effective hunts pulled for you. So I'm in my points here. I've got a few points for a few different states. I'll show you a few examples on how to get those set up. So I'm going to go ahead and click Montana here. I'm going to click species. I know I've got moose, sheep, and mountain goat points, as well as mule deer. So click a species, and then on the right-hand side, you'll see a point type. Some states, they call them bonus points. Some states have preference points. Make sure that you know the difference between those. Some of them have a blended, so a mixed preference point. So go ahead and select the species and then the point type associated with that. And then from here, you can go ahead and just add the number of points you have. So I know in Montana, I have 11 deer points. Now my deer points in Montana are saved. So if I go back to the research tool and look for Montana deer hunts, it will automatically pull my odds based on the 11 points that I have here. So I'll show you another example. Go to Colorado, species. I'll just select deer again here. So here you'll see a preference and a preference plus weighted. So go ahead and select the correct one associated with that. And then the other thing to note is make sure you're logging into the state websites to your profiles and pulling the exact number of points that you have for that particular state and species. And then you're going to want to, every year when you get that bonus point or extra preference point, come back into this and make sure that that's accurate moving forward. So hopefully that helps you. There's a lot of other states here and species. I'm going to go ahead and add all of my points. That way when I'm searching for hunts this year, I'm looking at the correct draw odds and getting the most accurate results possible.
In this video, we're going to talk about the guided tour for the Hunt Research tool. So if you're just getting started with this application, you need to figure out how to structure your search to find your ideal hunt. The guided tour is going to be a great way to get you started with that. So the first thing we're going to do here, if you're not already in the guided tour, is to go up here to this ellipsis, hit guided tour, and that's going to take you into this view. So the first and most important thing you want to do is select your species. So pretty easy. What do you want to hunt for? In this case, I'm going to try to discover some elk hunts. Hit continue. The next step is to choose your preferred bag type or sex. So maybe you're looking for a bill elk You know, maybe it's a different season and you're just looking for a fat cow to fill the freezer. If you select both, you're going to see only either sex tags. If you select a male, you're going to see bull tags and either sex tags. So let's proceed with that option. After that, you're going to choose your state. I live in Montana, and that's where I'm interested in hunting, so that's what I'm going to go with. And after that, it's your method of take, right? So what weapon do you want to use? You can select all, and that's going to show you every possibility, but that's also going to potentially introduce a lot of noise into your search results. So in this case, all I know how to do is rifle hunt, so I'm going to choose rifle for this season. And after that, it's choosing your hunt dates. One option here is just to hit I'm flexible, and that'll show you all the possible ranges of dates that you could hunt within. On the other hand, maybe you're traveling or you've got a packed schedule, you can select a specific time frame that you want to hunt in. So you could say select September and select your date range there. In this case, I'm just interested in seeing everything that's on the table. Okay, let's continue to search. So this is going to show us all our options here, sorted by our odds, draw odds, high to low. In this video, we're going to talk about narrowing down your search results. So in this case, I've searched for deer hunts in Montana. There's a ton of options. I can scroll and scroll forever. It's really difficult for me to find exactly what opportunity really is right for me. So let's talk about applying some different filters in order to try to narrow things down and identify the relevant information here. One of the first things that I can do is choose the sex that I'm interested in. So if I'm looking for a buck, I'll just select male. And that'll show me hunts for either sex tags as well as male-only tags or antlered bucks. You can also choose your weapon. So in this case, let's limit it to archery. Another really great way to narrow things down is by selecting the time frame, so the month and day that you're interested in hunting during. Let's limit it to September through December. Now we can go ahead and execute the search. As you can see, we've really narrowed things down. We've only got about a dozen different results here, and it's going to be a lot easier to parse through which one of those is the most relevant for me. That's it for filtering. In the next video, we'll talk about sorting so you can organize your search results.
So let's take a closer look at sort and see how we can use that to achieve a specific goal. There are 4 different metrics that you can sort on. So we have draw odds, harvest rate, hunting pressure, and public land. So let's just start by sorting by draw odds. If I want to sort high to low, then that's going to give me options that are a high likelihood of me drawing this year. So if my goal is just to get a tag, give me the highest chance of being able to hunt this year, then that might be a goal there. Sorting the opposite direction, you might do this if you're strategizing to get one of those like once in a lifetime hunts or a very sought after hunt. Lower draw odds typically means that you've got a lot of people competing to get to it, and that might mean that there's value in some way associated with that, whether it's trophy potential or maybe it's just a really cool hunt. But looking at harvest rate, I might want to sort high to low for harvest rate if I'm just trying to get meat in the freezer. Combining that and kind of considering the draw odds is another tactic for get a tag in my pocket, and I want a high chance of harvesting something once I have that tag. And then hunting pressure is a calculation that we use that describes the number of hunters per square miles for that unit. So it gives you an idea of how many people you're going to be competing with in those woods to hunt. So if your goal is to hunt by yourself or not see other people or hope that you find a chunk of woods that don't have animals that are being disturbed by other hunters, then that might be something that you want to sort on. And then lastly, public land, it just sorts all of our units by the total square miles of public land. So that's something that I might do if I'm concerned about being able to find access, or if it's a high percentage of private land in that unit and I might not have permission or know someone, then I might want to put those units at the bottom to make sure I have access. So yeah, that's a high level overview of sort. So let's take a look at some options that you have if you arrive at a search that produces no results. This can happen if you pick a combination of filters that just simply doesn't exist. So if I want to hunt, let's say, oryx and then I want to hunt them in Montana. There are no oryx opportunities in Montana. So I'm going to get no results. And you get this page here that says that I can start the guide to kind of help me make some decisions about how to create a new search. I can edit the search that I already have, or I can clear it and start over. Let's start by editing this search and then just choosing a different animal. If I pick, let's see here, elk, I now have results again. So you might need to fiddle with your search options and kind of guess and check and see which combinations are possible. Let's filter this further down and choose a date range for elk. So I want to hunt elk, let's say during September, the first week of September. So between September 1 and September 7th. I've updated that, and then I also want to hunt with a rifle. This is also an invalid combination because that's typically when archery season is, and there aren't any rifle hunts for elk during September in Montana. Now, it may just be that you've picked a date range that doesn't have any hunts at all. So suppose we want to hunt in May. And then I'll clear, I'll say any weapon. And there are no elk hunts in May. So there's some invalid combinations. Once you've reached that page, yeah, I would recommend either starting over, popping into the guided tour, or just kind of playing guess and check until you find the combination that works.
Today I'm going to walk you through some of the information and data that's on the results page after you set up your search and get your results. So there's a lot of data here, and it can be interpreted a lot of different ways depending on what type of hunt you're looking for. So I'm going to walk you through a couple examples and give you some of my thoughts on how I look at and interpret this data. So all of this data is from the 2023 drawing, so from last year. So these are the actual results that would have happened. I have 4 points for Wyoming antelope. That's what I'm looking at right now. And so these would have been my draw odds that actually happened last year when I applied. And so you can use this as a data point here when you see the draw odds in the left side of the results page to know last year I would have had 100% draw with 4 points. And so as I'm going into this year's draw, you can help that interpret where you might want to find units that will help you apply. So you'll see I also had some odds here that are 66% draw all the way down to 1% draw. There's some really hard units in Wyoming to draw. So in general, the first thing you think about with draw odds is 100%, I'm gonna draw it potentially. That might mean they give out more tags. There might be less public land access. So you wanna be sure to go double check the map, which we'll show you in future videos how to do, to make sure there's actually public land you can access. And also trophy size sometimes goes into that. So if there's a unit that has really good trophy, there might be a lot of demand that people know about, and then your draw odds naturally will go down from there. So those are kind of some of the starting points for understanding draw odds. Also on the page, you will see the results tabs for each unit. You'll see the dates. So you'll see some of these units for rifle are open September 30th. Some open August 14th. I'm seeing October 4th. So don't just assume that all the seasons in Wyoming open the same date. Some of them overlap with other elk and deer hunts, and so it's important to kind of understand what those dates are, especially when you have a schedule, when you want to go, when you want to take time off from work. So do you want to go August 14th? It's going to be hot, drier. They might be focused on water. Or do you want to go September 30th? That's going to be post-rut. There might be some archery already done, and so just stuff to take into consideration. Those season dates were from last year as well. So once again, be sure to go in and check the regulations for the current year to make sure those season dates, sometimes some species, they're identical every year, September 1st, September 15th. Some of them change to be an opening day, a Saturday, for example. So you just want to make sure you check those dates as well. So going in here a little further, you'll see the tags given. So that was the quota for last year. So, 100 tags given, 200 tags given, 300 tags given. And that can change year to year as well. So you might want to go in and look at the regulations, like I mentioned, and make sure that your quotas haven't changed. Winter kill, drought, the biologists can change those right before the application season based on what happened the previous winter. So, but last year, this is what the quota was. This is how many tags were given, and this is what your draw odds were, this amount of points. You'll also see the harvest rates here for species where it's applicable and states that have that information. So antelopes usually has a pretty high harvest rate, above 50%, nearing 100%. Other species might have a 10% success rate, 20% success rate, elk archery hunts, for example. And so it's important to look at that harvest rate and kind of balance that with your application strategy as well. You'll also see here a cool data point that we get from the onX database, actually from our maps, is the total square miles of that hunting unit. So some units are really big, some are really small. And then also you'll see next to that the square miles of public land. And so that gives you an idea of how much public land is in that unit. Some of these have a lot of public land, some are a little bit less, and so that also comes key when we start looking at the map once we've narrowed our unit down to what units we want to apply for. And then we've also done a little calculation here. You'll see a box for hunters per square mile. That's kind of a density factor, or how many hunters are in the field. And so based on the tags given and how much square miles there are in a unit, we can calculate how many hunters are going to be there per square mile. So you might have really low hunters per square mile or really high, and so that's depending on the public land as well. That might give you an idea of how many hunters you might see in the field as well. So important data points here to think about, and you're looking at these a lot of different ways for different hunters. So for me, I'm looking for a lot of public land hunter, but that public land also has to be accessible. So we'll touch on that in the map video as well. Make sure you know the dates that you're going, and you can go ahead and just scroll through here and see a lot of units. Some of these units have 90 tags, some have 150, some have 600, and so. Really gives you a good idea of kind of how they're managing that unit, what the populations are. Usually they're giving out, they want the same percentage of males harvested in the unit, right? So that's 10% of males they want harvested. And so if they're only giving out 90 tags, that might mean there's a lower population there. And so there's going to be lower population, less maybe bucks to look through. But you might have a chance to shoot a bigger one because some have lasted longer. Where they're giving out 600 tags, there's probably a bunch of antelope, easier to draw, and the age class might be a little lower just because so many are getting harvested each year. And that's the data that is currently on our results page. The next step would be to then jump into selecting some of these units and looking at the map to further refine your information.
In this video, I'm going to show you how to quickly narrow your results down. So at the top of the screen here, I've got an elk hunt. I'm looking for a bull in Wyoming. I've got my points in here. I archery or rifle hunt. So I've got all of this information up here. And when I click search, I get a really long list of hunts here, which is really helpful to see the opportunities. But it can seem a little overwhelming at first. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how to quickly and effectively narrow that down from all this super long list down to maybe 5 that I'm going to spend more time researching those particular units. So I'm going to go ahead and just switch over to the table view, and I'm relying specifically on the information that we have on the units. So on the left hand side here, you'll see what the unit number is, state, species, season. So here you'll be able to see whether it's an archery hunt or a rifle hunt. My odds specifically on drawing that particular tag, how many tags are given, the harvest rate, so how successful are the hunters in that area over the last year, total land, so you're going to be able to see how much public land is there. If I'm a public land hunter, if I'm hunting DIY, that's going to be super important to me. No sense drawing a tag and spending your hard-earned money and points on a unit that is mostly private property, and then you have to run into trying to figure out how to get access or pay for access. So that's going to be super critical for me. And then we also have hunter density, which is a cool stat to look at. So how many hunters are on that land per square mile? You can also sort. So in the top left-hand corner, you can look at draw odds. You can sort by harvest rate, by hunting pressure. So if, for example, the harvest rate is what's most important for you, you can just go ahead and sort by that and then look for those. I'm going to keep it as draw odds right now, and then you can go from best draw odds to worse or vice versa. So I'm going to go ahead, scroll down here, and find a few different units to kind of give you an example of what I look for in particular. Everybody's going to go about this slightly differently. What might be most important for me might not be most important for you. So keep that in mind. This is just kind of how I would use this. So if I'm looking at, let's see, if I'm looking at like three to four different hunts here on my screen, all 100%, I could draw these. I know I want to go hunt Wyoming this year. It's the year I want to cash in my points. So I'm looking at either 100% tag or one that is very high percentage draw. These are archery, rifle, let's see. So a lot of these too, one thing to note is it will show you both. It will show you that this particular tag, 95 for example, has an archery season and a rifle. If my schedule allows, that's something that I want to look for. I can go down there during archery season, have a good hunt, get a lay of the land, help, I'm hunting, but I'm also kind of scouting at that point if I want to go back during rifles. So looks like that one, the harvest rate is very good. Pretty good amount of public land, and the hunter density is pretty low. So using these things, I now have narrowed it down from a list of 50 plus hunts to 5 or 3. And then the next step for me is I'm going to dive into the map and look at each one of these particular units and figure out, okay, is this the type of terrain I want to hunt? Am I looking for more open land? Am I looking for more timbered land where I can call in bulls up close? So I'm going to really narrow this down to this list here, and then I'm going to spend a lot of time in the map and figure out, access points and so on and so forth. So this helps me again narrow down from a lengthy list down to a manageable list, and then I'm going to do more research and ultimately end up with the one hunt that I'm going to apply for and hopefully draw this season.
Now I'd like to walk you through our results page map interaction feature. This is really cool, where we start to see a glimpse of what onX is kind of famous for, our mapping system, and how that kind of integrates with the hunt planner here and helps you with your research when applying for a unit. So you'll see we have all the results here on the left side of that we just walked through all the data points and what all those mean. And the cool thing is you can click on the unit anywhere on the card and it will zoom into that spot on the map. So I'm in Wyoming and we just zoomed into our unit here. And it gives me a glimpse of the unit. You'll see our color-coded public lands, the private lands. We got a nice green outline that outlines the whole unit boundary, and a lot of other details. And if I click on another unit, let's go to this one, it'll just move the map and highlight that one. So you can scroll through these units and quickly click on them on the map and see where they are in the state and what the information looks like there. So some of the interactions you can do on this map page is you can zoom in and out, and you can pan the map around with your mouse and check out the whole unit. You can come down here to our base map menu where it says satellite 2D, and you can actually go into 3D by clicking that. And you can do all of the 3D interactions that you're used to doing on the map and look at that as well. So we'll go back to north up here and 2D and zoom out. So this map is really designed to give you a quick view, not super detailed like our maps in our app or web map, but a super quick view of what does the public land look like here. You'll see in some units there's a lot of checkerboard land that might not be accessible to get to, and so that can be deceptive when you're looking at how much public land is a unit. But if the public land is in big chunks, that's awesome. That means I can usually get there, hunt that, so that actually is accessible public land. Is the public land BLM? Is it state? Is it Forest Service? There's different rules, different restrictions. If you're hunting antelope, you don't necessarily want to see a lot of Forest Service. That usually is mountains and timbers for the public land. So if you're hunting antelope, you want to see a lot of BLM and state land in the unit you're applying for. So really high level just gives you an idea of what the terrain is going to be like, the steepness, what types of public land are there, and it can help you narrow down what units you might want to apply to for different species. Okay, I've selected down some results here that I'm interested in. 2 different elk units maybe to apply for. They both have around 14% draw odds. So I have unit 95 and unit 49 here that look really interesting to me. So I've done kind of my research. They both have public land here, looking at the map on my results page. So now I'm going to dive in a little bit more into web map and look at a little bit more detailed layers to see which unit I might want to apply for. And this kind of scouting is not looking for animals. I'm not going to the field. I'm not saving my offline maps. I'm not seeing where my glassing points are. I'm going to be using a little bit different strategy. I want to look at more things like roads, conditions, food sources, what kind of topography I want to go hunting in. Do I want to go hunting in mountains, in prairies? Is there road access? So I'll dive in here and walk you through some of those layers. So when you hit the link to go to web map, it's going to open up web map, and it's going to open up right to that unit centered on your map here. Pretty cool feature. And then you can start diving in. And so I can see right here that this actually has a lot of wilderness areas. So if we go to our layers here and go to our land access, we have wilderness areas turned on. So that's good. That's a good one to check right away. Wilderness areas are going to have different rules. So you can't take bikes in there. You can't have, motorized vehicles. And so that's going to be a much more remote hunt than other types of hunt just in regular Forest Service or on BLM land. And so if you're looking for a backcountry hunt, that means you probably also want to go early in the year. So elk are going to be up high in the wilderness, typically in archery season. And so if there's a lot of wilderness and it's a late season rifle hunt, they might be down low out of the wilderness area. So that gives you an idea if it's kind of more of a migration hunt or not. The next layer I would look at is the current conditions. There's some cool ones here. You can look at the drought data. That's a really interesting one to turn on. Okay, so with the drought data on, I've zoomed out and you can see that Wyoming currently is not really in any drought conditions. So that means there's going to be a lot of water, some good forage, they've had good snow conditions, and probably some good horn growth. So that's one thing you might want to check to see if, as one side of the state got really extreme drought, the other side not. You'll see when we turn that layer on in some of the other states here that there is still extreme drought going on. So that's a good layer to turn on and just check. Okay, so one of the next layers that I turn on all the time is the motorized roads and trails. So this comes from the Forest Service and some BLM data of what roads are opened for motorized travel and what time of year. So in my Colorado hunt last year, super important to know what roads I'm going to be able to drive and get to in November during my hunt. So if you turn that on, okay, you'll see here now in the unit I'm looking at that we have all of the roads highlighted in purple that are open and accessible for driving, and you can actually click on them and it'll open up the roads, give you the road name, the road ID, the length of the road, what it's accessible by, and the dates that it's open. So for overlanding, high clearance, dirt bikes, ATVs. And so when you're thinking about how you're going to access your unit, are you looking to do a lot of backcountry hiking and getting away? Well, you want to find a unit that doesn't have these roads going everywhere that you think you might want to hunt. Do you want to take four-wheelers and drive around and do a lot of glassing and hunting off that way? Then you want to make sure that it has roads that are accessible to drive. So there's a different way to interpret this data for different types of hunts. And so making sure you can get around and do the type of hunt you want is really important when you're doing the hunt planning. When you're applying side of the scouting, you're not necessarily looking for animals right now. You're trying to match up the unit with the type of hunting you want to do. And then one of the things you can do when you're starting to look for food sources is you can come into the trees, crops, and cover data, which has a lot of layers on different types of habitat conditions. And for elk here, I would turn on the timber cuts and the historic wildfires layer. So that's going to give you the layers that have historic timber cuts from the Forest Service, and then also the wildfires that have happened in the last 20 years here. So you'll see now in this unit that there were timber cuts in 2011, 2012. So those are going to be what we're going into 2024. So 13, 14 years old. Those are going to be regrown a little bit. So there's not a lot of fires here in the last 5 or 10 years. And so what you're seeing on the aerial imagery is probably what you're going to get as far as the trees. So there's not going to be any deadfall or burned areas in this unit, it looks like. So let's go back and look at the other unit I was interested in and see where that takes us. So we're going to click on the link for unit 49 here. This unit is much different. Same draw odds. This has no Forest Service in it. This is basically you're hunting 100% BLM land in this unit. So it's going to be a much different type of hunt. Could be more camping based from a vehicle, more road based driving around, more glassing, a little bit more open country here. And so that's a totally different type of hunt. You'll see I have all those same layers on. So this is really interesting. We're in BLM, but there is a lot of wilderness study areas. So those might have some camping restrictions and access restrictions that you'll want to look up and ahead of time and confirm with the BLM. And there actually has been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or so burns in this area as recently as 2020 and 2023. So there's going to be a lot more burned area. There could be some newer forage. Those might be some key areas to focus in on elk when you're actually going through your scouting plan and maybe doing a scouting trip there or getting there before the season. These might be some areas you want to check out. And you'll actually see a lot of roads. This is really cool to have the BLM road data here in this unit. So these are roads that are open, high clearance 4x4, side-by-sides, ATV, dirt bikes. So it looks like this unit is actually pretty accessible as well. We've got some big chunks of BLM land. The other unit had huge, vast amounts of Forest Service. And so these, to me, look like two vastly different types of hunts. And that's where the importance of coming to WebMap, looking at the roads, habitat conditions, access, and the types of public land can help you pick the type of hunt that's perfect for you. So once you get down to your 1 or 2, 3, 4 units that you're interested in applying, be sure to dive in just a little deeper in WebMap here and choose the unit that's right for you.
Thanks for joining us. We're really excited about this product release. We feel like we've just barely scratched the surface of what's possible in this problem space. So keep an eye out. We're going to keep rolling out new features and new data sets. And thanks for tuning in.